Good guy, that Mike Garafolo. Wow, strong words from Texans GM Nick Cassarino as we bring in Mike Garafolo from the NFL Network to talk about this. And, you know, obviously you can understand why he wouldn't agree with the 3-game suspension, but this 3-game suspension has been pretty polarizing around the league in general. Mike, what do you make of the length of the suspension? What do you make of the reaction around the NFL?
The length of the suspension is sort of consistent with what we've seen. I understand what Caserio was saying about how everything's sort of all over the place if you go back in recent years. But these have become more and more stern, and they've sort of held up a little more on appeal. I'll get to that in a second because we know Al-Shaair is appealing this one. But I do want to address some of the things here that both Al-Shaair and Caserio have said. His character, he talked about what he does away from the field. Yeah, I'm sure he's a great guy. And he is a hardworking guy and all that. Like, all this stuff doesn't mean that you can just go out there and take shots at the quarterback. And I know Tom Brady has talked about, well, maybe we should penalize some quarterbacks for not going out of bounds or sliding late. Patrick Mahomes has done that stuff. Trevor Lawrence did not do that in this case. I do agree with Tom Brady. It doesn't apply here, though. And the NFL has done so much with regard to head injuries and trying to make the game safer that they can't just sit here and go, well, you know, we haven't suspended them yet, so maybe we should just go one guy. Like, no, they're stern when it comes to head injuries and making sure it's safe for the players involved. And I would say this. All these appeals on behalf of Azeez Al-Shaair, which I understand they're sticking up for their guy. Watch Kamari Lassiter. Who's Kamari Lassiter? Kamari Lassiter is a rookie defensive back. So he hadn't been around for a while. Rookie defensive back. And there's an end zone angle where when the hit occurs, he puts both hands on his helmet like, oh my God, what did he just do? So you've got all this, and the Jaguars' reaction, you could see the way the players' reaction, that should tell you everything you need to know. All this adds up to he deserved to be suspended. Now, on Caserio's point about the length of the suspension, this is going to be heard by a jointly appointed arbitrator, meaning that he's not just appealing it back to the league. That's happened in discipline cases in the past. And everybody said, oh, well, you're just appealing back to the person that levied it. No, this is different. These are former players who hear these cases and sometimes will say, hey, 3 is too much. Let's knock it down to 2 and 1. And again, it's guys who have been on the field before. So let the appeals process happen. Let's see what occurs. I believe he's still going to have a suspension here. Will it be 3 or knocked down to 2 or 1? We'll see. But there's still going to be a suspension in place, and deservedly so.
Mike, you had a first look at a couple of teams going in opposite directions last week. The Philadelphia Eagles win their 8th straight, beating a Baltimore team that has lost 2 of their last 3. What did you notice, Mike, that's working for the Eagles right now that's maybe not working for John Harbaugh's Ravens right now?
The Ravens have been inconsistent, and they've beaten themselves. I talked to Mark Andrews, the tight end, ahead of that game. He said, we have got to stop beating ourselves with these penalties and these mistakes because we could be an offensive machine. And they weren't. They were inconsistent. It was a weird game. First quarter, all Ravens. Third quarter, all Ravens. 2 and 4 when it really mattered. All Eagles, and I give the Eagles credit for their poise and their ability to understand that Saquon Barkley eventually is going to break a run. In fact, he tells guys during the game, I talked about this on NFL Game Day morning ahead of the game, hey, you're 1 block away, and he sees it live. He'll tell the way, hey, if you had just held that a little bit longer, I'm going to break it. So stay on your blocks. And those guys know any run, even a simple inside. It's like a special run where he breaks it. It can be any run call where he breaks it. So the Eagles have that confidence. I think they're playing with that. I think that's why certainly there's a case for Saquon Barkley to be MVP, although I still think it's a quarterback award. And the Ravens, they have some inconsistency. They got a little bit of drama. This Deontay Johnson situation, they traded for him for the Panthers, didn't play a snap the other day. John Harbaugh, very cagey with what he's been saying. Keep an eye on that situation to see how it goes. I would say this, you bring in a guy like Deontay Johnson, who in the past has had some extracurricular stuff going on. You don't bring him in to be your 4th or 5th wide receiver. He's got to be a high-volume guy. You got to feed him. They haven't. He's upset. The Ravens have some things to really sort out over the bye week. Meanwhile, the Eagles, they have the Panthers, so you assume it's going to be another win for them as they keep this winning streak going. They are a dangerous team, and I really, frankly, at this point, want to see them. I don't care if it's in Detroit or Philly. I want to see them play the Lions in the NFC Championship game. I think it's going to be a great game.
Agreed. Dust has settled, Mike. Matt Eberflus fired by the Bears last week. Now, this is a team with the most recent #1 overall pick under center in Caleb Williams. A lot of talent, Is that enough to make this a truly coveted job? Or in the words of team president Kevin Warren, the most coveted head coaching job in the NFL?
You know, I saw a couple, listen, we're all guilty of this as reporters, but I saw a couple reports right after the firing about this being, the word coveted, most coveted job, highly coveted job. And then Kevin Warren came out and said, who do you think's been telling everybody this behind the scenes, obviously, if this word keeps popping up? So if it was such a highly coveted job, I don't think that they'd have to keep telling you that. Now, look, you do have Caleb Williams there. You've got pieces in place. You've got a legendary franchise. You've got a really good city in Chicago. So it's going to be certainly an attractive job. It depends on who you are, though. Is that the most coveted job for Bill Belichick? No, I don't think so, because he's going to look to go somewhere where he can have full control. He's not going to have that because Ryan Poles and Kevin Warren are in place there. So I think that's going to depend on who the candidates are. They do want someone who is the old cliche, leader of men, like a Mike Tomlin. Somebody can get up in front of the room and get these guys to go play their hardest and play consistently. If you're looking for that and you're looking for an offensive guy to help Caleb Williams along, you may not find that in this class here of coaches that are coming up here. Cliff Kingsbury, who has a history with Caleb Williams and is going to be on the list somewhere, he's not that leader of men type. That was the knock on him when he was a head coach before. Ben Johnson with the Detroit Lions, the offensive coordinator there, same thing, Jay. So they're going to have to decide, I think, which one they want, the great offensive mind or the guy that could be a great leader. They may have to do an either or when it comes to this highly, most coveted job, Jay.
No doubt about it. And I'll say this, Mike, you are the most coveted NFL analyst in our eyes. And that's a fact.
Yes. Well, you know what? In your eyes only, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's NFL insider or something like that.
That's true. And you are our neighbor to the south. I'll think about that. I'll ponder I'll ponder my sins. We'll talk to you next week, my friend. Thanks for this. Appreciate it.
You got it. Thank you, Jay.